Imagine being thrown into a dark, cold cell where every breath you take could be your last. Would you last a minute? An hour? Or would the walls close in on you before you even knew what hit you? Have you ever wondered what it truly meant to be locked away in medieval times? What horrors lurk behind those iron bars? And why, despite the grim tales, did so many prisoners choose to endure rather than escape? Today, we're diving deep into the brutal reality of medieval prisons, a world where survival was a daily battle and hope was a fragile flicker in the darkness. By the end of this video, you'll understand the psychological and physical torment prisoners faced, backed by real historical research and human stories that will stay with you long after. Picture this: a man named Thomas, shackled in a cramped cell beneath the castle walls. The air is thick with the stench of damp stone and human despair. His only light is the faint glow seeping through a barred window high above. Days blur into nights as hunger gnaws at his belly and cold seeps into his bones. He's not alone. Whispers of other prisoners echo through the dark corridors, some broken by madness, others by sheer will. And in that moment, something shattered inside Thomas, the part of him that believed freedom was still possible. Medieval prisons were not just places to hold criminals, they were instruments of punishment and control. Yet, contrary to popular myth, not every prison was a hellhole of disease and death. Research by historian Guy Geltner reveals that many prisons in medieval Europe, like those in Venice and Florence, offered conditions that, while harsh, were sometimes no worse than the dangers outside the walls. Prisoners had food, shelter, and relative safety from the violence that plagued medieval streets. But safety came at a price. The cells were small, often dark and cold, with poor sanitation. Prisoners were frequently chained in iron fetters, and the psychological torment of isolation was relentless. The uncertainty of their fate, waiting for trial, torture, or execution, weighed heavily. Imagine the mind games played in that silence, the creeping despair that gnawed away at hope. Have you ever felt trapped in a situation where time seemed to stretch endlessly, and fear was your only companion? Do share your experience in the comments. We read everything. Take the story of Enoch, a Jewish man imprisoned in 15th century Italy on suspicion of counterfeiting. During his interrogation, he endured torture, a grim reminder that medieval prisons were also sites of brutal investigative cruelty. Deaths during these interrogations were not uncommon, and some prisoners ended their own lives, driven by unbearable pain and hopelessness. Yet, remarkable resilience shone through. Prisoners found ways to occupy their time writing letters, planning escapes, or even working within the prison walls. Some paid for better accommodations, highlighting a grim social hierarchy even behind bars. And while escapes were rare, it wasn't always because the prisons were impenetrable. Often, the outside world was a harsher, more dangerous place than the prison itself. For many, the prison was a grim refuge from the chaos beyond. And what about disease? Contrary to the horrific images we might imagine, death rates in medieval prisons were surprisingly low. A 2013 study comparing prison deaths in Scotland with those in the general population found that prisons, even in earlier centuries, were not always the death traps we assume. Deaths were often linked to external factors like famine or the brutality of torture rather than the prison conditions alone. But the emotional toll? That was immense. Imagine the loneliness, the despair, the flicker of hope crushed by every passing day. Imagine the families left outside, wondering if their loved one would ever return. And in that silence, the human spirit struggled, sometimes breaking, sometimes fighting back. So why wouldn't you survive 10 minutes in a medieval prison? Because survival wasn't just about enduring the physical hardships, it was about withstanding the psychological siege, the isolation, the fear of the unknown. It was a test of the human soul. But here's the hidden truth: even in the darkest dungeons, there was resilience. There was hope. There was a fight to keep one's humanity alive. And that fight is what connects us to those forgotten souls, reminding us that even in the worst conditions, the human spirit can endure. If this story moved you, if it made you reflect on the fragility and strength of life, please share your thoughts below. What would you hold on to if you were locked away in that darkness? Comment, share, and let's keep this conversation alive. Because understanding the past, harsh as it may be, it helps us appreciate the freedoms we have today. and it inspires us to never take our humanity for granted. Thank you for watching. If you found this video powerful, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's remember the stories that shape us and honor the resilience of those who came before.